Very warm evening to all of you. Today we are going to talk once again about something that relates life with the law. And what could be more an interesting and exciting subject to understand being the narcissism. Why I need to have a show on a subject as sensitive as narcissism is, quite a lot number of people are coming and talking about that they are a victim of narcissism. In simple word, they mean that they are subjected to a lot of abuses at home. I, being the lawyer, wouldn't know much of it except what the client is saying. Now, in order to really decipher and understand and dissect what it is, today we have with us Dr. Vimal Kumar, a well-known psychologist. She has been working in the field of narcissism now for more than 7 years, and she has achieved a kind of an excellence on the subject which I have been able to get through from my understanding with her. Now therefore, with you and before you, we are going to talk about narcissism. First of all, a very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, as I said in the introduction, the topic is narcissism. We just want to break it down into pieces. For me as a lawyer to understand it, for many people who are the victim of it to understand it. So if you could help me in first of all outlining in a very normal parlance what exactly is narcissism. How do I understand it?
For a lay person to understand, let's just say that it's a personality type, and a narcissist is a person whose behavior is very hard to handle because it's very hard to understand. There are layers to it. When you first meet a narcissist, you could be completely blown away by the charm, the kind of appreciation you get, the kind of validation, the charismatic approach to knowing the other person. However, the reality changes as the dynamic of the relationship progresses.
In other way, you are saying that they are very appealing, charismatic people, and at the first blush it is too difficult to recognize that this person can have some disorder. Am I right to understand that?
Correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. And here I would also like to clarify, not all narcissism is a disorder. Narcissism is a spectrum.
Okay.
So it, like I said, it's a personality type. So it can be a narcissistic personality, and there are different types of narcissists, like a grandiose narcissist, a malignant narcissist, a vulnerable narcissist. There are also a category of narcissists who exhibit empathy, which is a rare attribute to come by in a narcissist.
Because what I have little understood about the subject narcissism, it is more about the people with lack of empathy and compassion.
Yes.
Now you are saying that there is also a kind of a narcissist who can otherwise be empathetic.
Yes.
So how difficult it is to draw the line for anybody to understand these?
This is why it is so difficult to identify. Because it's a personality type. So on the onset, there is nothing wrong with the person. A narcissist is also usually a very successful person because they have their goals really clear and they will do anything to get to that goal. However, so the empathy factor that we're talking about, yes, there is a type of narcissism where the empathy exhibited, projected, is it kind of overwhelms the person. It takes you in. It's like a bait, and then once you get hooked to it, there may be a different side to the person, but it gets revealed as the relationship progresses.
So when you say it is a disorder, so is it a particular stage when it becomes a disorder, or it is, as you said, it is a personality type? Being the personality type, we all have different personality types. Some are more social in nature, extrovert. So in a similar way, you are saying narcissism is also a kind of a pattern of personality. different
Yes,
personality.
yes. It's just like any other personality.
All right.
But the behavior of a narcissist is very difficult to deal with. But it's not apparent from the word go.
Okay.
And this is why there is so much of a gray area for the person. For example, someone who gets married to a narcissist, it's going to take a while for them to even figure out that there is a problem.
But before we really talk about them getting married and all that, so if it is a personality type, then the exhibition of their action and hard behavior start coming in the childhood, and would they not be a pain to their parents? And how, or can we say that the child are also narcissist in their behavior?
Some, yes. There could be some traits that may be visible in let's say teenage years, or as the child enters adulthood, but it develops over time. So it's, and also, like for example, arrogance is one of the characteristics of a narcissist. Entitlement is another one. But this can be characteristic to a lot of other personality types as well.
Correct.
Right? So it's not not either or. It's a collection of characteristics.
Okay.
And in my experience of having spoken to a lot of people, I also feel that narcissism is something that is enabled. Because if a narcissist does not get their way, maybe it stops, there is a check on the behavior. For example, if I feel entitled and I get the supply to feel entitled, my entitlement is going to grow.
Understood.
But if I don't have a supply to feel entitled, I don't think I have the space to grow that particular characteristic.
But again, the question which I am trying to seek answer is, does it get identified at a particular age, say when the child crosses the age of 18 years or 20 years? Or how does it come for the first time? How does it get revealed?
It's not something that comes as a first time. This is what I'm trying to say, because it's a continuum. It's a development of a personality, just like any other personality. A narcissistic personality disorder is very easily identifiable because it has very strong characteristics of a narcissist, which we will go through. Like some of the characteristics of a narcissist, we will go through. However, in other personality types, it's like a gradient. Let's say it's a gradient. It's very hard to understand. So, when you're speaking to a child and you say the child has behavioral issues, or let's say the child has anxiety, it can't be classified as an anxiety disorder on the word go. It's a development, right? And it also could be situational. So it's only over a period of time that someone can identify that it's a narcissist. However, of course, a psychologist would be able to identify that.
Even at an
Earlier age.
But for that, there are to be certain symptoms that need to be seen by the parent or other
characteristics, yes. Not symptoms, but characteristics of the personality.
All right.
Also, sometimes as a child is growing up, and for example, if the parents find it difficult to deal with the child with certain difficult characteristics or behavior patterns that are showing up, and the parents decide to take the child to a therapist, even if the therapist is not able to say that yes, this is your child is going the narcissistic way, but there could be a doubt around it. There could be some mild identification around it. Of course, this has to be a psychologist again who specializes or knows about narcissism.
If it is not easily identifiable at the early age, then people get married. And then somebody who is getting married to a person who is suffering from narcissism or narcissism as a characteristic, how that person gets really try to understand, and when do they come to know what I got into?
So there are two things here. One is the threshold of the person who's at the receiving end, and the other is um, at what at what point does the person really start to pay attention to um, what's happening, like how the dynamic of the relationship is playing out. Because usually what happens is that the initial phase, the honeymoon phase of a relationship, it's very hard to figure it out. Also, the honeymoon phase, the narcissist is likely to be love bombing. There would be a lot of attention, there would be a lot of wooing, there would be a lot of appreciation, because projection is very important to a narcissist. So the projection would be that of, I'm the best husband you can have.
Okay.
And they would do anything to get that. The first, probably, I mean, and this is a very generalized conversation we are having, so specific to every specific case, but usually what happens is that the first red flag comes up when a narcissist is expecting appreciation and validation and acknowledgement, because that's what they love. They love the attention and they love validation and appreciation. And if they don't get it, that would be probably the time when there would be some form of behavior which would be hard for the person at the receiving end to receive. For example, there could be anger, there could be withdrawal, there could be sudden silence without any explanation as to what happened. There could be like a withdrawal of some sort of a normal ritual. For example, if the couple says good night to each other before sleeping, the narcissist may stop doing that. So it could be something as subtle as that, to show the displeasure or to show the irritation or the anger, or that I'm not happy with you.
That is true for all relationships.
Right.
Then how
it is.
The distinction can be drawn?
It's the first characteristic that may come up, right? But then this would progress into bigger things, because the characteristics of a narcissist are essentially, they would be arrogant. They come from a space of entitlement. So they feel they're the best things that happen to the planet, and for the partner, like there is no parallel to them. And that is why they need the constant supply of appreciation. There is complete lack of empathy. Every conversation where the partner may come up and say that I'm feeling this, it would be turned into a shame attack.
Okay.
Like they would probably be made to feel that their needs are so small and so insignificant, and it's all about, like, I'm doing so much for you, you better appreciate that. You can't be feeling that you need something which I can't give. So you pretty much get what I decide.
So you're saying
right?
that control is one of the important characteristics of them. And when you say control, it is in all aspects of life.
Yeah, everything. Emotional, mental, financial, social, legal. It'll start creeping into the relationship in all forms. Now, of course, if the person, if the partner is smart, they may learn to draw boundaries. But if the partner is not smart and keeps giving in the hope that this would better the relationship, I will give in and this will work. This will take the relationship to a better space. In that hope, the disappointment gets delayed.
Okay. It only gets delayed, but it never gets over.
Never. Never.
So somebody happened to get married to a narcissist, it means the disaster is bound to happen. The only question becomes when.
Yeah. You're sitting on a ticking time bomb. So it only depends, like I said, how much attention can you pay to picking up that this is narcissism, and what is your threshold? The relationship is pivoting on these two things. Eventually, when you do find out this is narcissism and I've had enough, I can't take anymore, that's when people usually step out and they go and share with someone, or they may approach a lawyer, or they may approach a therapist. And even when they come, they don't come and say, I'm suffering because I've been abused by a narcissist, or I'm in an abusive relationship. They come and say that I'm so confused. I am so confused as to what's happening in the relationship because I don't know what can I do to make it better. It's usually more with a lot of guilt. It's almost like it's only them who's responsible to drive the relationship. Because this is what a narcissist does.
So you are saying a victim, even after suffering, doesn't know that there is an abuser, and when they come and disclose this to someone who knows a little bit about the subject, then gets the first revelation that they are a victim of an abuse. So that's pathetic for the people
Yes.
who get into this.
And if the partner happens to share it with another person who's also undergoing narcissistic abuse, they may say, yeah, this happens in all marriages. It's okay, you just need to keep on adjusting. Question is, till when?
Till when?
And why? And what are you hoping to get out of it?
So in your experience, do you see any pattern that people come after, say, 3 years or 4 years or 7 years of abuse, or it again varies from an individual to individual?
In the very recent times, let's say around last 2 years, I have seen that people have become aware of the word narcissism.
Correct.
And they're able to pay attention to it. And even if they're in doubt, they want to go and seek answers, which is the good side of it, the good side of awareness. But before that, I saw a trend where usually people would come up when the narcissist would start abusing the child.
Okay.
Because as a mom or as a dad, they wouldn't be able to take that for the child, though they have taken it for themselves. And that's when they would come out. But again, this is a general conversation, so and we're giving general information. It's specific to every individual. Yeah, and also the threshold plays a big role, because there are some people who have they can kind of they're more resilient, and thereby they can take the abuse longer.
So is it gender neutral? A narcissist can be a man or can be a woman, or
Yes.
it is only men who are?
It can be either. It could be a male or a female, but there are more male narcissists than female narcissists, as research brings forward.
Okay.
As of now, we don't know whether it's going to
What
change.
is the specific reason why do you think that is the ratio?
The male being more dominant, like
I mean,
in terms
why
of
there are more narcissists male than the female? Why there is a ratio, so much of a difference in the ratio?
I think it's as a culture, we breed narcissism in men, because the mothers, it's the male child worship, it's the male child preference, the male child gets things first, the male child is sent, like the boys are sent to school. It's changing,
There is
but
a
this is what
perspective you are saying, that the culture is such which has always supported men to be like that, and they become empowered, and therefore this tendency is more in them.
Yeah, I would actually put my reputation at stake here and say that we, like, as women in our culture, we have actually taught men to be entitled.
Okay.
We have taught them, right? Because we have given them the first preference for everything.
Okay.
Like, I remember when I was a child, I have also seen, like, women eat later. I have also been to households where women finish the meals which are left over by the men.
It's still true very much.
Yeah.
Even as on date when we are talking.
Even today?
Yeah.
I have probably moved out of those circles, but yes.
Yeah, the reality of big India is far deeper.
Yeah.
Okay. So you say it is a gender neutral thing, but predominantly men are more to be narcissists than the female.
Yeah.
And then the characteristics would ordinarily be the same in the men and the women?
By and large, yes. By and large, yes. It could just play out a little different, because for the receiver, like for example, if a woman is a narcissist, it's very unlikely that the male is expecting the female to be a narcissist, so it's even harder to put a label or to get clarification that this is not going to change, it's only going to get worse with age, and you need to do something about it. And the sooner you do it, the better it is.
Okay. And you just talk about child or the children from the marriage. Is only the spouse who becomes the victim of a narcissist typically, or the children also become their victim?
Everybody who comes in their arena in the name of a family they're affected, and they're affected for life.
Okay.
Children born to a narcissistic parents carry wounds. I think a lifetime is not enough to heal those wounds. And even when the wounds heal, the scars remain.
Okay.
So there's enough to deal with. As far as maybe the outer world, let's say the professional people in contact with the narcissist, or the social circle, or the friends of a narcissist, they see a very different side of that person. No. Because the narcissist does get a lot of appreciation from the outside world. It's only the family with whom the narcissist is very different, because intimacy allows for a lot more to happen in a relationship. See, the external of the relationships, which is beyond, outside our house, we are very boundaried. And we know exactly what we want from home.
Okay, a typical narcissist at home is a different animal, and outside he's altogether different.
Yes.
But I have heard that narcissists are also not good even to their best friends who are outside their immediate family zone, and they even use and throw them when the opportunity come and they seize that as an opportunity. How true is that, or how correct is my understanding?
Well, your understanding is absolutely correct. If they want to use their friend for a purpose, they will be mean to them. They would be very strategic about it. The friend may not even know that they are getting used for a certain, for whatever the agenda is, like for a certain purpose, right? But would the narcissist make it apparent that they're using that friend? No. They would always say that I'm being so good to you. I am doing this as a favor to you. If you do this, this is how you will benefit. If you do this, this is your good deed. And I'm the one who's facilitating you to do a good deed.
Are the king to show to the world? Okay.
I'm the king. As a narcissist, I'm the king.
And
everybody else is my people in the kingdom.
And to what extent they consider themselves as an incarnation of God?
A grandiose narcissist has a semi-god or a god syndrome several times. And that's where the entitlement comes from.
Okay.
There's a lot of criticism you would hear from them. There's a lot of cynicism you would hear from them. Comparison, a sense of competition. They're very competitive, and they seldom let go of the grudges. They keep score of a lot of things that different people are doing. They may keep silent over it, but when the time comes, they would not miss an attack if they get the opportunity to get back at them.
They are very intelligent people.
They are very intelligent. And that's how they can strategize, because of the intellect.
Once somebody discover, say somebody who comes to you, say a female comes to you, and during the course of the discussion it transpires that she is a victim of narcissism. So what are your typical advices to them? How to deal with it? Because people are not immediately ready to forgo the relationship or walk out of the marriage.
Yes.
So how does it come, and what would be your advices to them?
So see, typically when a person comes to you or me, they're usually exploring what are the outings or what are the possibilities of relief in the relationship that they are in so much of pain. I mean, they're in pain in that relationship, right? So they're only exploring. So the first meetings are usually about sharing what they're going through, and maybe I sit there trying to identify what's their own role in bringing around the suffering. How much is the other person to blame for it? What is their support system in the family? All of that. After you have done all this survey, then comes the real question as to how much more of this can you take in, and what is it that you're looking for yourself. Very often, I struggle to even tell the person, even if I know for 100% that the partner is a narcissist, but are they willing to hear that and accept that? It's very hard, right, for them to kind of have a label to someone they've been living with all this, because it's like a double-edged sword. The one, they don't want that label on a partner, and the second is that how can I be so stupid to not have seen this? There's a lot of self-blame, because they're also used to getting that blame from the narcissist, so they're anyways in a lot of guilt.
So they themselves are a victim,
Yeah.
and still they are under the guilt that I have not been nice or
Yes.
rightful to my spouse.
Correct. So very often it's all about what is it that I can do to better the relationship? What is it that I can do to bring back some happiness in the relationship? What is it that I can do to please my partner so that he's nice to me, that he likes me, that he appreciates me?
And when they discover this through you, they accept it. They take a lot of time to accept it. How does it go?
It's very different for different people. Some
generally,
yeah. So some people who are at the threshold of having, just taking it in, like they're done. It's easier for them to accept it. There are some people who are still trying to figure out and attempting to make the relationship work, and are in that phase of hope that we go through before we accept reality. They take their own time to accept it.
But as an expert, when you see a victim, do you see any hope of improvement in the relationship between a narcissist and the victim?
The relationship can improve if the victim becomes silent and obedient.
Can it be done without being a victim? Can it be reconciled? Or is it something which is absolutely incorrigible?
I don't see hope when there is narcissism at all, because I have seen enough to know that it's improvement is a very difficult word and concept to identify and define, because improvement is also when, if I am at the receiving end, I have a narcissistic partner and I'm at the receiving end. Improvement is also when I accept that I'm not going to get anything from here. I'm in a vacuum relationship. All I'm collecting for myself is disappointment, shame, guilt, anger. Then yes, there is improvement because I'm accepting it, and I will then look for my own ways of dealing with my grief. But as far as the dynamic of the relationship is concerned,
correct,
silent and obedient.
But you don't see a narcissist ever improving. Once a narcissist, always a narcissist.
How can you improve upon perfection? They're perfect.
So they don't accept that there can be any fault in them, and therefore there is no possibility of any improvement.
There's no potential.
Okay, not even the potential. So the victim has only two options: stay silent, and then either walk away.
Yeah.
And is it true for all other such disorder in your area of expertise or in the psychology? Like we have different kind of disease like schizophrenia and some kind of other disorder. Are they also not encourageable?
But well, if there is a mental illness like bipolar or schizophrenia or a personality disorder, but they are properly defined and classified as disorders.
Okay.
All narcissism is not a disorder, right?
Okay.
And but the common thread between other disorders and this personality type is that a narcissist is not necessarily a bad person. Neither are the other people who are going through mental disorders. Nobody is a bad person here, right? Because we are only looking at the negative. We are only talking about the negative side of a narcissist. But there's a very positive side as well, because they are charismatic. They're very appealing. They can impress people. They can win people over, because there's a lot of manipulation going on.
But the end is, if the end objective of all the thing is to feed myself and to ensure that other gets deprived, so we only talk what is negativity.
Yes, but
what else we can talk about?
But relationships can also be give and take, right? So professional relationships, for example, work really well with them.
Okay.
Because if I want something, I am willing to give you something as well.
Correct.
Right? So that the person I'm giving it to as a narcissist is only going to appreciate me because they're benefiting too.
So they can be a great professional, but certainly a bad spouse.
Yeah. Well, intimacy, not their game. Let's say intimacy is not the victim's game.
Okay.
Because they don't suffer as much as the person who's staying with them.
What would be your 3 major advices to the victim who can't come out of the marriage and still have to be in the marriage and then still have to bear with them?
Well, there are plenty of people who need to, like, they cannot separate for various reasons, right? And they need to build boundaries. So the first step is to make very strong boundaries. In the confines of living under the narcissist rule, they need to find their liberation. That's a hard one to do, but it's possible to do.
Children need to be protected in that case.
Yes, in the same 3 ways. And the empath parent needs to facilitate that for the children. Children can also do it for themselves, provided they're like old enough to do it. So at this point, I would like to ask you a question as to when someone does find out that and accepts that they are married to a narcissist, what is the kind of evidence that you would need in court to prove the abuse? Because that's a challenge to prove. It's very hard to prove emotional and mental abuse in terms of behavioral evidence.
See, in our legal system, what we have is the fault of the other party. It is what we deal every day in the court. One could be a narcissist, other could be somebody who usually is a basher of the spouse, or somebody who is not a narcissist but otherwise commits cruelty. Or we talk about the cases where the woman is deprived of the intimacy. All this we need to prove. All this happens within the 4 walls of the house. Whether it is this kind of a thing or that kind of a thing, or more specifically on the topic that is narcissism. So generally the idea of the people or the public at large is for everything there need to be a direct evidence, whether it is a document, some kind of a recording, some kind of a message, this and that. But that is not how the law operates. We talk about the law, then it talks about the tale of a victim. And the victim has to come up with the story, which is the right story, which if presented rightly, then the witness is examined in the court. And if it is a truthful version, then any other question by the side opposite during the cross examination, they are not able to break that witness, because that witness stand the test of the questions as well as stand up for the credibility of it if that person is truthful about it. So most of the cases get solved by the testimony of the person, because nobody goes into their room to understand what is happening. So that's the first basic we all need to understand, and more specifically in narcissist case. The second is, rather I would like to clarify this position more clearly. We were living just 20 years ago at an age where there was no WhatsApp, no mobile, or maybe 25 years little earlier. Everything was what happens within the house, and the laws were very much there.
Yes.
And everybody used to seek the divorce on the ground of the cruelty, and long back in 60s it was said cruelty doesn't need to be only physical cruelty, it has to be the mental cruelty. So what we try to prove in the court is the mental cruelty that is caused by the action of the other person, who in this case is a narcissist. Then we have a duty to explain to the court as to what narcissism is and how these traits are getting mashed up. Forget even if he's not a narcissist, these are the things which has caused cruelty to me, and therefore I need to be compensated in terms of the domestic violence case and all this that, and in terms of the divorce, it gets the ground to get the divorce. That is how it pans out in our legal setup at a very broad level, I am speaking.
So there's no special provision, right, for, let's say, someone who's married to narcissist to be able to identify that it's a personality which is not really compatible to sustain a marriage, or let's say, and is there provision for someone with a clinically diagnosed and labeled mental illness, such as bipolar or schizophrenia or any of the other severe disorders?
So we have a provision in law that talks about two situations beside the mental cruelty aspect, which is more from the perspective of the victim. The law talks about two things: if somebody is of unsound mind, that gives a valid reason to get the divorce; if also somebody is having such mental disorder which makes it difficult for the other person to live with this. It is in this bracket of mental disorder we cover all these kind of psychological issues, that this is the kind of the psychological disorder which is not insanity, which is not unsoundness of mind, but a behavior pattern which is so grave that I cannot be reasonably expected to live with that person.
What about alcoholism?
Alcoholism is another facet of it, and I believe I have seen so many such cases where if the alcoholism takes the shape which causes against injury to the other spouse, be it in the form of any manner, and then it affects the entire fabric of the family, and rather adversely affects the fabric of the family, and it leads to all these things, then the court is, at least in today's time, is more open to grant the relief to the victim who is coming and approaching the court.
Yeah. So from the little that you've shared, I understand that there at least the suffering needs to be proven. Like if there is, let's say, if somebody wants to go in for a divorce, they need to prove that they have been suffering, and and to prove that suffering, there need to be certain evidence for the consequences of.
So as I said, the evidence in our legal system are two types. One is ocular, oral evidence that we say, and the other is the documentary evidence, in which comes all these recordings, WhatsApp chat, emails, and this and that. So maybe we are not able to have WhatsApp chat in those kind of cases which explain, but also in today's time, I would say it becomes little easier, because over the time, lot of conversation over WhatsApp, where, as I understand, these people, which they consider their mobile as their oxygen, and that is very important to them, they're used to put a lot of things and keep on commenting and this and that. So tomorrow that helps me in making the dots meet, that look, this is the thing I am saying it, this is what he has been saying to me, and this is when I am standing in the witness box, he is unable to disprove that this is not what has happened to him. So a dynamics of all these three things put together gives a clear picture to the court. Yes, what the person is complaining out is right and
Yeah.
credit worthy.
As much as I understand that, but I find that the hardest, like the hardest issue to overcome here would be, how do you prove that this is abuse? Because it's mental and it's emotional, and there may not necessarily be any documentation or optic evidence for it.
Yeah, as I
Because it's
said,
happening behind closed doors. There are no witnesses to it apart from the children, if there are.
so let's talk about, forget about the narcissism for a single second. Let's talk about anything which is happening in the house. Let's talk about a case that there is somebody who was violating a female within the house, other than the wife, who could be a maid, who could be a relative of the wife, or could be somebody from his own family. Now somebody is suppressing it for so long, but it is happening within the house, and the people, maybe one or two in the house, does not come forward to support it. So does law not punish those people? Then also the law punish those people. There are the children from the there are children for whom the POCSO Act is there. A 7-year-old child testimony about the abuse, which is not necessarily too physical but otherwise, is also gets proved in the court, and therefore the testimony itself is too strong enough to ensure the conviction in POCSO cases. If I apply the same logic, that can be applied in a matrimonial relationship for the court to assess and understand, and therefore the version of the person who's coming up with the complaint gets coherent. And there I believe the lawyer has a duty to understand the subject very well.
Yeah.
Unless the lawyer does not understand, may not be as good as psychologist would do, because that's your everyday job, but as much as necessary to make it very clear to the court and the judge as to what exactly the subject narcissism is all about, and then making the judge to understand from those prism of ingredients or the characteristics of the narcissist to apply to it in the facts of the case to get into the real thing.
Yeah. Yes. So basically, what we are saying here is that the person needs a lawyer who's equipped with the information of how narcissism operates. Because
Correct.
yeah, because it's not, I have had conversations with people who really do want to exit the marriage, but there are two things. One, the narcissist is so used to controlling, it's not easy to let go. The partner's not going to let go easy, right? They're going to create as many obstacles as possible so the partner does not exit the marriage. And the other is that I find that a lot of the lawyers don't understand it. They don't understand that this is a form of abuse. They don't understand that it's so toxic to remain in the marriage, because on the outside it looks perfect.
But the job of a lawyer has to believe the version of the client, because the client who's coming has no reason to lie to the lawyer. And of course the lawyer should have the skill test, because the lawyer should not and must not be a judgmental person. He has to hear the story, he has to believe it, he has to apply his mind, and of course unless and until he has got the necessary awareness, he will not be able to pick the symptom to provide the right prognosis to deal with the whole issue. So naturally the lawyer is expected to know, and therefore people come about it. Of course, maybe there is a situation where the lawyer knows little about it. When the case comes, he has to read it, understand it, appreciate it, get into it. So that is true for narcissism, and as well as for anything and everything that
yes, but I'm glad that you're saying this, because I totally agree with you. However, this hasn't been my experience through people, which is sad, because there is suffering, there is suffocation, and there is no exit.
So I would put this thing into your own profession. Now somebody who is a psychologist, and the people doesn't know outside that there is a specialist or somebody who has to be more aware of about the narcissism as a subject. they come to you, or come to that psychologist who hasn't dealt with the narcissism as a subject matter, or doing research, or having the necessary empirical data to process and understand it. What kind of advice would that psychologist or a counselor give if they're not able to pick the right things? So similarly,
Go and see someone else
go and see someone else is
who's
one
better
of,
equipped to handle that
one,
information. Yeah.
or the other is picked up. All right, I will do more about it, think
And then-
it over,
yeah.
research, talk to other who are expert on the subject. This is how we put pieces of professional over the time in all the subjects. We are not taught everything in our schools and the colleges.
Absolutely. And I think one of the common things that we have in psychology as well as law, I think it's research based, and it develops over time and it changes over time. A lot of things get added and subtracted, and
Therefore,
as the context
you
of-
said that you have been researching on narcissism, and you are not saying that I'm an expert on narcissism. Similarly, after 30 years or 20 years of practice
yeah,
of serving the law, we are still called practitioners, we are still practicing.
yes.
Whether any narcissist has come to see you to get his problem resolved?
For therapy?
Yes.
So a narcissist will not come for therapy. In my 24 years of experience now, yes, I've had the privilege of meeting a narcissist, approaching me for therapy 3 times in 24 years. And I only saw them once, each person only once.
Okay.
Or maybe one of them twice. The only reason that they came was because they were being threatened by the partner that if you do not go for therapy, the marriage is over. But that threat only got them here once or maximum twice. Because like I said, no human can improve upon perfection.
True, and which is
And they are perfect. They're doing Mother Earth a favor by being on the planet. So there's nothing a narcissist, there's nothing a therapist can do or offer.
So you meant to say it is difficult for a narcissist to leave the spouse, to let go the spouse.
Very difficult. Very difficult, because they love control, and they have someone there who they have been controlling 24 hours, especially if they're children. So that's control is one, and the other is that they want to project a perfect family. It's very, projection is very important.
Projection to the society that they have
Yes.
a good family and a great professional or a business life. These two things are very important for them.
Yeah.
And if somebody really wants to get out of it and the other person is not letting go the victim, then what would be your advice to them, how to deal with them?
The onus is entirely on the person who wants to exit the marriage. They would need to plan how to exit. They would need a very good lawyer to help them exit. Of course, I believe that in life, no matter how hard a situation is, but if you really put your intention to it and you really want to do it, you will eventually do it and achieve it. It's about finding the right time and the right people to help you, the right support, all of that. But if you ask me whether they will allow the exit to happen or make it easier for that person to exit, that's not going to happen unless they want to separate. If a narcissist wants to separate, then they can just turn around one day and say, baby, our marriage is over.
And when do they say that?
When they're having an affair?
Okay, in order to find another new victim to play their game on, then only they can easily let go the spouse who continue to be the victim.
Yes, but these words that we're using, like the next victim or they don't think of it that way. This is our articulation.
All right.
Yeah. But for a narcissist, it's just that um, I just need to move on. I'm tired of this marriage. I don't really like you because you don't do enough for me. I have done everything in my power to make this work, and now I need to exit, so I'm going. So it's everything is like they're doing the other person a favor.
So you are saying they usually exit if there is a possible relationship, or the victim is not pouring more what he wants more,
Yeah.
which is entitlement and this appreciation and all the thing that makes a narcissist a narcissist.
Let's just say that, if there is an affair, or the partner is not living up to their expectations,
Okay.
and they feel that they can get their expectations met from a different source, that's
How-
when they will exit.
And how important is society to them in real sense?
The most important person and context and element in their life is themselves. So it's all about I, me, myself. The social structure is important so far as they feel that they need to be attached to how they're projecting themselves. But if they feel that they are detached to it, it's over. It's not about how, how most people would have certain things constant in their life, right? Like, I know a lot of people for whom family is first, like everything is about family, and they want to keep that going for the rest of their life. That value or that belief does not change for them. But for a narcissist, it doesn't work like that. When they feel it's important, it's important. But when they feel the importance is over, then it is over. Because they are the entitled kings. They can decide what to do, when to do, how to do, and they're not answerable to anyone.
By going with the conversation with all the attributes and the characteristics that we have heard, is it not safe to say that they are the most difficult people to be into relationship amongst all the kind of a different disorder a human being possibly can have? Can we say that they are the most difficult?
Yes, they are the most difficult. They are the most difficult personality types
Equally
to handle.
dangerous too.
Well, not necessarily dangerous, because a lot of it is silent manipulation. So it's not really apparent, and most of the narcissists will not hit their wives, or even if it's a female who's a narcissist, they will not hit the husband.
Okay. So physical
So there'll be no-
abuse
yeah.
is not something which is common in their
No.
behavior and the exhibition.
No.
Any interesting example or something which you can tell us which make us this whole thing more interesting in the sense to appreciate, because it's been a very hard and a very deep talk, a little bit of a adieu in a more happy mood.
Yeah, sure. A couple of years ago, I had someone who was coming and seeking therapy because they were in a narcissistic relationship. Decided to exit the relationship, committed to exiting the relationship, ends up going to a lawyer, and the case goes on for about a year and a half. And after a year and a half, she figures that the lawyer is a narcissist as well.
So you mean to say the victim of a narcissist has gone to a lawyer who himself was a narcissist?
Yes.
Okay.
And so
And how did it pan out?
Well, because when we were talking, and there were things that would progress, but then they would stop, and then there was no real reason given for it. And she started feeling like, though it's a professional relationship, but she started feeling that no, he's not really delivering to
The promises.
to the desired goal, and it was taking way too long, and there were not enough solid grounds for the delay. Like there were no
Okay.
real reasons. She
So-
started getting feelers like the lack of conviction
So
that came out in court, or
are you
when the
saying the lawyer has understood that his own personality is going to get exposed, therefore delay it?
I don't know. That's
mean-
possible. I don't really know because I don't. This is second-hand information.
But this
then,
is what you figured out.
Yes.
He is putting a
Yes.
curtain to his own different version,
Right.
which is coming.
It
as
was.
a-
I found it very interesting, and so what happened was that she did have end up hiring someone else, and I think the divorce came through in about less than 6 months. I don't know whether that was proof enough, or maybe the time had come. Now there are different ways of looking at it, right?
Correct.
One can say that all the work was done and only the end was to be met, or the fact that the second lawyer, was actually convinced about
the story, the version.
getting it to a finale.
So now the only question that left is, after all this discussion, what will be your general advice to anybody who is in this kind of a relationship? Stay in the marriage, take necessary step, even if you have to do it in this particular way, or your definite call will be, please don't spoil more moments with this person or to be in this relationship.
It's very hard to decide for someone else's
Correct.
life, because as much as I do, everybody comes with their own set of limitations or their own beliefs and values, and we need to respect people
Correct.
for whatever they come with. The only one thing that I would say is save yourself, because no one else is going to be able to do that for you. No matter what it takes, save yourself, because you are important, you're significant, and you owe it to yourself to do it, and you owe it to your children to bring them up with self-esteem, and you need to role model that for them. And that's not only possible if you exit the relationship. You can be in the relationship. If you can't get out of it, it's fine, but you do need to save yourself and stand up for yourself even while you're in the relationship, and there are ways and means to do that.
चिल्ड्रन जो इस तरह के रिलेशनशिप से आते हैं और या उसमें बड़े हुए होते हैं, क्या वो भी उन मैसेजेस को सब्ज्यूम करके आगे एक वही कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ले लेते हैं? सो इन अ वे कैन वी से कि एक हेरिडिटरी ये प्रोसेस हो जाता है अगर नार्सिसिस्टिक फैमिली चले तो? कैन आई से दैट?
There are two, like again, I'm giving you the
General.
like the two ends of a spectrum, but either they can become narcissistic because that's how they have seen power in the family dynamics, that the person who's the narcissist has the maximum power, and if they are seeking that power, they'll probably end up becoming a narcissist. But on the other hand, they could also be very submissive and go into the world with a lot of fear and shame and guilt.
So either ways they would live on the either side of the extreme,
Yes.
and then they have to go through the whole process of
Because, to end it, what gives birth, what is the birthplace for narcissism? Is fear. The birthplace for narcissism is fear. If a child has been subjected to certain brutality, or lost a parent in childhood, or gone through immense rejection, abandonment, or any other kind of brutality, it's the child's subconscious decision that they're never going to feel that helpless ever again. And that's why there is so much of control. It's not like a narcissist feels happy within themselves. They never experience happiness.
they don't themselves experience happiness.
No. Because if I'm always spending my energy into controlling other people and trying to figure out how I can manipulate this person and how I can talk to this person to get what I want and maximize my needs and my wants and everything that I want around my life, how can I be happy? I'm never letting go.
A very difficult subject, a very sensitive
Yeah.
subject. A pleasure talking to you. I'm sure a lot of people must have had a lot to learn, and as you said, stay safe in or outside the marriage with a
Yes.
narcissist. Thank you very much.